So basically, today we will see regarding different types of computer memories. Okay, we have different types of memories in our computer system. So we will go through regarding those types. Now, you might know that you may know that uh, there are mainly two types of memories are present in our computer system. One is known as primary memory and another is known as secondary memory. So there are mainly two types of memories are present in our computer system. One is primary memory, another is secondary memory. So today we will go through about
Morning, sir.
good morning, good morning. So today we will go through about all types of memories present in our computer system, right? So we will start with primary memory, then we will try to reach out the all the different types of primary memories, and then we will try to explore the other types of memories which are present in our computer system. Okay, so let's start the class actually. So basically, if you see, you will get this is the classification of our computer memory. As I told you, at first we can classify our computer memory into two types. One is primary memory, another is secondary memory. Now again, the primary memory part can be classified into two types. One is RAM, another is ROM. RAM, the full form of RAM is known as random access memory. The full form of RAM is known as random access memory, and the basic nature of the RAM is it is a volatile memory. That's a very important point. It's a volatile memory. That means whatever data is stored in the RAM, it will be deleted completely whenever our computer system will be shut down, whenever it will be switched off. Whatever data that was present in the RAM will be deleted. So that's why RAM do not store any data permanently, and thus it is known as volatile memory. So that's a very prominent question, and I think you know this thing. So that's why RAM is volatile memory. Now, another type of primary memory, which is very important again, is known as ROM. The full form of ROM is read-only memory, which is non-volatile in nature. So that means in the ROM, whatever there will be stored, the data there will be stored, that will be stored it will be stored permanently. So even if your computer is switched off, then also ROM will hold that data. So these are two basic primary memories. Now again, based on the technology we can divide the RAM. You can divide RAM into different types. Again, can divide the RAM in different types, like RAM could be SRAM, that is static RAM actually, and it could be dynamic RAM. So there are again RAM. There are two types of RAM: SRAM and DRAM, static RAM and dynamic RAM. There are other variations of RAM as well. We will try to cover that. And ROM, in case of ROM, you can divide ROM again into several types. Few types are mentioned here, like PROM. The full form of PROM is known as Programmable Read-Only Memory. Programmable Read-Only Memory. So that is PROM. And EPROM, that is Erasable Programmable Read-Only Memory. And you can see there is another type like EEPROM, that is known as Electrically Erasable Programmable Read-Only Memory. So in that way, there are several kinds of ROM as well. We will go through those also. So these are the basic types of RAM and ROM. So this is one part which is falling under the primary memory. Now, on the other hand, if you see, there are secondary memories. Now, secondary memory is also important for our computer system, as because all the data which is stored permanently, it is actually stored in the secondary memory, and the size of the secondary memory is generally much more higher than the primary memory. So secondary memory, we can divide it into again several types, like HDD, which is basically known as hard disk drive. You know that, hard disk drive. Then SSD, actually this is the full form of solid state drive. Now this is the advanced technology of our hard disk drive. Okay, this is known as SSD drive, solid state drive. Generally in our latest computer systems, we will find that all the hard disk drives are SSDs. If you go and buy a computer in any shop, in computer shop, that salesperson will tell you that, sir, here in this system, this is SSD, so it is advantageous. Now, why it is advantageous? Actually, SSD drives are much more faster than the traditional hard disk drives. So in that way, you can access data through SSDs in much more lesser time than the normal traditional hard disk drives. So that's why SSDs are there. So that is solid state drive. Okay. Apart from these two, there are other drives, other memories like compact disc, that is CD. Nowadays we don't see it actually, because all the CDs have been converted into DVDs, and again DVDs are again going to be obsolete. Then floppy disk drive, I think you didn't see this floppy disk drive in our time. In 90s and 2000, floppy disk was very one of the you can say one of the type of memory what we used. So that is floppy disk, and then magnetic tape and all that. So these are some things. There are some things. Here it is the spelling magnet tape. It is basically wrong. Spelling is wrong. It will be tape. TAPE, magnet tape. Okay, E is missing here. So that's the thing is. So overall, if you ask what is a computer memory, so the answer will be it's a storage. It's a storage of the computer. Storage of what? Storage of data as well as instructions, everything basically stored in the computer. So the memory is divided basically into different small parts. Actually, a single memory is divided into different small parts. Each and every part is known as cells. Actually, CELLS, cells. Each and every part is known as cells. And most importantly, each cell or each location of the memory will have an unique address through which our processor will identify that particular part of the memory and it will access data from that part. Okay, so that's basically the computer memory is. So this is a basic introduction actually of computer memory. Now the thing is, let us find out apart from this there are apart from this primary memory and the secondary memory, there are several other types of memories also present. Sometimes in some literature, some books, you will find that there is primary memory, there is secondary memory, there is auxiliary memory. Okay, there is another type. In some books you will find that auxiliary memory. Not auxiliary memory is nothing. Basically the memories which are additional memories, like your pen drive. When you are using your pen drive, that is basically auxiliary memory. Because if you think, if you don't have pen drive, then also your computer system will run. But if you don't have RAM, your computer system will not run. So that's the difference. That's the difference between the auxiliary memory and other type of memory. Auxiliary memories are the auxiliary. That means it is additional. Okay, kind of thing. So that's the thing. Apart from this, there are other memories like cache memory, or somebody's call it cache memory. I call it cache. The spelling is C-A-C-H-E, cache memory. We will discuss about cache memory. It is also very interesting type of memory, which actually minimizes the time, minimizes our computing time. It actually minimizing our access time, data access time. That is cache memory. And there is another type of memory which is known as virtual memory. Virtual memory, again, that kind of memory is also very unique and very important and very useful, you can say. So all these types of memories we will discuss today. Okay, we'll try to cover up. We don't know how much it will be possible to cover all these memories today, whatever, so we will try to cover it up. So first of all is primary memory, which is most often known as main memory. So primary memory is most often known as main memory. Now it actually has the data and instruction on the computer which is currently in the working condition. So primary memory holds the data and instructions which is currently in the working condition. That means which is running, currently running. So as I told you that RAM is a primary memory, and RAM holds data and instructions until it is in the working condition, until your computer system is working, until your computer system is running, it is switched on. Up to until that time your RAM is working. Whenever you are switching off your computer, shut down your computer, all the data will be flushed out from the RAM. So RAM or main memory, whatever we are saying, it do not hold data permanently. It holds data temporarily, and that's why RAM is known as a volatile memory. So it has a limited capacity as well. If you see in your computer systems or in your mobile phones or whatever, the size of RAM is much lesser than the size of the hard disks. So it has a limited size, limited capacity, and it is generally made up of semiconductor device. That's some element, semiconductor. We generally use it in different electronic devices. So semiconductor device, and these memories are not so fast as the other types of memories like registers. Register is a type of memory. It is not so fast as registers, but it is faster than hard disk. So the data and instruction required to be processed, that will be in the main memory. So whatever your computer is accessing, whatever data actually your computer is accessing, it will access it from the memory. That means RAM, main memory. Okay. Now, as I told you, RAM can be divided into two subcategories. Primary memory can be divided into two subcategories rather. That is RAM and ROM. Now, if you see, this is the picture of the RAM. It is present in your computer system. If you open up your computer system, you will find that you will find this kind of this kind of card. That is basically RAM. Now, if you try to explore the characteristics of main memory, or characteristics of RAM probably, then you will find that these are, as I told you, this particular basic element is made of semiconductor. These green elements, whatever you will see, you are getting in the picture, this is basically semiconductor. So that's why we call it semiconductor memories. Again, as I told you, it's a volatile memory. It's volatile because data is lost when the power is switched off. Then it is the basic working memory of the computer, and obviously, as I told you, it is faster than the secondary memories like hard disk, even faster from these SSDs also. So it is faster than the secondary memories. And most importantly, another very vital question might come, that whether your computer system can run without RAM. The answer will be no. The answer will be big no. It cannot run. So your computer system may run without secondary memory, but it cannot run without primary memory. So this is the characteristics of main memory. Okay. Now coming to the RAM in more details. Now, as I told you, RAM is random access memory, and it has two types: static RAM and dynamic RAM. You just find it out. What is static RAM? Actually, the static term, this term indicates that the memory retains its contents as long as the power is being supplied. That means as long as your computer system is switched on. Okay, try to understand the difference. The static RAM, the static term, static, you know that means static means it is, it is fixed kind of thing. So static, it is not changing. So that's static. So the static indicates that the memory retains its contents as long as the power is, your computer system is getting the power. Okay, power means electric supply. Electric power is getting. So you get all the data will be held by the RAM. Data will be lost whenever your computer system will be shut down, right? So that is why, for this nature of this kind of RAM is known as static RAM. Okay. Now, what is dynamic RAM? What is dynamic RAM then? Now, dynamic RAM is little different. Okay, but before going to the dynamic RAM, let us find out what are the basic characteristics of static RAM. Now, the characteristics of static RAM is that it has a long life. That means it only been chale. It is a long life. Another very important thing is it is faster. Size is large, but it is expensive. Expensive means cost is higher, and it needs high power consumption. So these are some characteristics of the static RAM. So we found that static RAM, where all the data is stored until your computer system is running. Till your computer system is running, all the data is will be there in the static RAM. Whenever your computer system will be switched off, all the data will be flushed out from the RAM. So that is the basic nature of the static RAM. Now what is dynamic RAM then? Let us find out. What is dynamic RAM? So unlike the static RAM, in case of dynamic RAM, it needs to be refreshed in a periodical manner. It needs to be refreshed. Now what is refreshed? Refreshed means data will be flushed out periodically. Your computer system is running. Then also periodically, I mean after some time, suppose after a few seconds, data will be flushed out, again it will be reloaded into the RAM. Data will be flushed out, after a few seconds, again it will be reloaded. I mean, this thing will be done periodically. So this particular thing is known as refreshed. Okay. That thing happens because of the technology of the dynamic RAM, right? This is purely electronic things. This happens because of the technology used in the dynamic RAM. So basically, in dynamic RAM, we use capacitors. Okay, in the dynamic RAM, we use capacitors. It is the basic nature of the capacitors. Is that the basic nature of the capacitors is that it needs to be refreshed periodically, right? This is the basic nature of the capacitors, that it needs to be refreshed periodically. Okay, so that is why, as the DRAMs are made up of capacitors, and as capacitor has the basic nature that it needs to be refreshed periodically, so dynamic RAM needs to be refreshed periodically. So that's the reason why dynamic RAM needs to be refreshed periodically. So question may come that why dynamic RAM needs to be refreshed periodically. So the answer is, as the dynamic RAMs are made up of capacitors, and it is the basic nature of the capacitors is that it needs to be refreshed periodically. So dynamic RAM needs to be refreshed periodically to maintain the data. Okay. So what is the advantage basically? Why we are taking so much trouble? Because you can say that some static RAM, it holds data until power is switched on. Then why we should go for dynamic RAM, where we need to refresh data periodically? So this is the overhead. This is the overhead for the system. So basically, it is main reason. In my opinion, the main reason is the cost. Cost is the main reason, because in the dynamic RAM, the cost is much lesser actually. In the dynamic RAM, cost is much lesser than the static RAM. Dynamic RAM, in case of dynamic RAM, cost is much lesser than the static RAM, and that's why we go for dynamic RAMs. We go for dynamic RAM, and other apart from this, another reason maybe the size of the same capacity. If you compare, the size of the dynamic RAM will be smaller in size than the static RAM. And another thing is, it takes less power compared to static RAM. So these things are advantage. These things are advantage over the static RAM, and these are the huge advantage. These are the huge advantage. So that's why we go for dynamic RAM than the static RAM. Right. So these are basically about the RAMs. Okay. Static RAM, dynamic RAM. RAM is a primary memory, and it is volatile in nature. These are the key points about RAM. Now let us find out another type of primary memory, which is known as ROM. Now what is ROM? As I told you, it is known as read-only memory. Why read-only memory? Why read-only memory? Because It is read-only memory because uh, if you see in the RAM, you can read data from the RAM. You can read data as well as you can write data. It means your computer. Your computer can access data from the RAM. It can read there. It can write over there also. But in case of ROM, your computer system can only read. Okay, can only read. It cannot write. It can only read. It cannot write. So that is why it is known as read only memory. That is why it is known as read only memory, because in the ROM your computer system cannot write anything. So that's why it is known as read only memory. Okay, generally I'm talking in the general sense. Generally you cannot write anything over there, your computer system. Now that's why you can say these are non-volatile in nature. Unlike RAM, it is non-volatile in nature, because RAM it was volatile. All the data, whenever your computer is switched off, all the data is going and it is flushed out. But in ROM, it will be there even if your computer is switched off. So that's why it is non-volatile in nature. Question is very common: which is volatile, which is non-volatile? ROM is non-volatile, RAM is volatile. Okay. Now that's the thing is, now ROM, why we use it actually? We use it actually in several places, in several devices. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are using it in several devices. For our computer system, ROM is used to booting up. Whenever we start up our computer, the instructions which is stored in the ROM gets activated, and finally it loads our operating system into the RAM. Okay, finally it loads our operating system into the RAM, and that is basically known as booting. BOOTING. This procedure is known as booting, and it is done by the instructions stored in the ROM. So that's why we can say ROM has a very vital role in case of booting. That means in case of starting up our computer. Okay, and this particular operation, this particular set of instructions, is known as bootstrap. It is known as bootstrap. Okay, which is basically written in the ROM. Right now, as I told you, ROM is not only used in your computer. Knowingly, unknowingly, it is there in your different other household electronic devices, like your microwave, like in your washing machines, even if in your cars, even if in your bikes, and like that. In the different way, you don't know maybe, but it is there. It is doing its job. So that is basically the ROM is. So the vital point, the vital difference between RAM and ROM is that RAM is volatile in nature, ROM is non-volatile in nature. In the RAM, your computer system can read data from there, your computer system can write data into it. But in ROM, your computer system can only read data from there, cannot make any modification over there. So that is basically read-only memory. That's why the name is, right? Now, let us find out what are the different types of ROMs present. And the question is very common. This kind of question comes. What are the different types of ROMs? Now, there are different types of ROMs like MROM. If we start with first type of ROM is MROM, which is known as masked ROM. First type of ROM, it is known as masked ROM. What is masked ROM? Basically, these names has come from its technology. Now, this kind of ROMs were actually hardware devices, okay, that contain some pre-programmed set of data or instructions, and these kind of ROMs were cheap, that means inexpensive, cost was lesser. So this is a type of ROM which is known as masked ROM, which we don't generally use nowadays. That is basically masked ROM. Okay. Next is PROM, that is programmable read-only memory. It's a very vital thing. Now, the general nature of the ROM is that you cannot make any modification over there, generally. But PROM is a ROM where we can make some modification. PROM is a ROM where we can make some modification, but we can make modification only one time by a user. So basically, the thing is that a user will buy a blank PROM, okay? A user will buy a blank PROM, and then that user can program it, and the user can program it. Now, once the user will program it, then it will be fixed for the entire life. Then it cannot be changed. So that is basically programmable read-only memory, where you can write once only for the one time you can write it. So again, if you think, after that it will be again a read-only memory, because after modifying it once, you cannot make any modification. So it is basically becoming read-only memory, but programmable. Why programmable? Because you can make modification at least, only once, at max one time. So that's why it is programmable read-only memory. Okay. So programmable read-only memory, here you cannot erase any data. Once you are modifying, once you are writing, you cannot erase any data. So that is programmable read-only memory. Our next type of memory is EPROM. EPROM, sometimes somebody call it EPROM or EPROM, but the full form is erasable and programmable read-only memory. That is EPROM. Okay, but we will come to this EPROM. But before that, I will ask you, up to this PROM, up to this, do you have any confusion? Up to this, do you have any question? Then you can ask me quickly. Up to this, we have covered several things actually. We have covered different types of computer memory. We have covered what is primary memory. We are actually in primary memory. We are covering. We have covered what is RAM, what are the types of RAM, that is SRAM and DRAM. We have found that DRAM is faster and less expensive and consumes less power than SRAMs. But the disadvantage of DRAM is that here you need to be refreshed the data periodically after some times, as because DRAMs are made of capacitors. And capacitors, it is the basic nature of the capacitors that it needs to be refreshed periodically. So that's why the DRAM needs to be refreshed periodically. And in case of static RAM, we found that the data will be there until your computer is switched on. So that is basically static RAM. And Then we try to explore what is read-only memory or ROM. It is basically a chip, a circuit, a chip which is the picture is there, given the picture, and it basically used during the booting of the computer system. That means when your computer system is starting up. Now there are several types of ROMs. We have found MROM, that is masked ROM, and then we have found programmable read-only memory where you can program it only once. And then we will go to the EEPROM and all other types of ROMs. But we will go into our next session, as because I mean into our next class today, because this class is going to be end, as we have very few time is left, only few minutes. So I'm going to the next session. I'm giving you another link. You please join over there, and please join quickly. Don't join so late, because somebody has I observed today that even if I have told in the last class that I will not allow after 5 minutes, then also many of you has joined very late. Some of you has joined just now. I have allowed today because this is very important topics to discuss. That's why. But please don't make so late. Join quickly. We will go into the next session. I'm ending up this session. Okay.